All right, welcome back. It is a recap of Week 9 here at Sunday Night at the Corner, College Football Corner. My name's Fletch and Randy. We're on YouTube. We're on Facebook. If you're YouTubing it, give us subscribe and hit the bell so you get notified when these shows are going to hit. And Facebook, give us a like and spread the word. Join in if you want to chat. There's a lot to chat about. And we'll get to the news that just hit tonight in a little bit. But first thing we definitely want to do, say hi to Randy, and let's start talking about games that happened yesterday. So, Randy, have you come down off the ledge? Is everything good?
Yeah.
You called that game, brother. You called it all the way.
Oh, it didn't surprise me any at all. Yeah, I think I told you I needed some heart medicine or something. That was yeah, it was quite a last 2 minutes of the game.
Big time.
Fortunate that they fumbled for Alabama to get the ball back. But one of the things that shocks me is people are trying to figure out why the guy let the guy score from, basically he had the first down. He's about at the 10-yard line. Why did he give up and let him score? Well, that's the only way that South Carolina was going to get a chance to score themselves. Now, didn't guarantee that Alabama was going to make a field goal, but, it certainly meant that South Carolina was not going to get the ball back. So, actually, that was not a bad move. Oh, Jesus, cat.
It's cat butt Sunday.
Yeah, so it doesn't, especially with Alabama's kicking game, that's one of the complaints that people had. Does South Carolina realize how bad Alabama's kicking game has been over the years? But
yes.
The guy was perfect from inside 30, and
Yep, he was.
Yes, that wasn't a bad call to do that, but it's a big uproar with the media and everything on social media.
That was something I was going to bring up. I haven't been on the social media to see it like that. I was watching, some replay of it when I watched it last night that they were showing a replay. And at the last second, I noticed that a guy for South Carolina was kind of standing like this as the dude went by him. And I was like, what kind of effort was that? I'm thinking, did he? And then I started thinking, did they let him score, or did he not get the memo that did the whole defense let him score, or was it just that guy? I wasn't sure what all went down. And yeah, it was just like less than a minute to go coming back for South Carolina anyways from that. So I thought it looked a little weird to me, so I wasn't sure if what I saw was what I saw. So yeah, they did let him get in, I guess.
That's the exact play that I'm talking about.
Okay.
And apparently their coach in his post game thing said, hey, if they get the first down, let them score. Otherwise, if they're down at the 5 or 10 or whatever, they're just going to drain the clock down.
Right.
A second left and go for the win. So, it wasn't a bad move on their part at all. Of course, there's no way they could have known the guy was going to muff the kickoff and they were going to have to start for the 9-yard line.
Yep. Oh yeah.
No way they could have known that whenever they when he told his defense to let Alabama score if they got it. He said if they got the first down, which would have put them inside the 15-yard line.
Yeah. The commentators are talking. If he just goes down instead of going in the end zone, they could drain the clock and kick a field goal. But of course, you're going in, and that's when I started noticing. What did they let him score? So, I think it happened one time. Just recently where somebody scored instead of draining the clock and the ball went right back to the other team, took it down. I think it might have been last year. It was maybe BYU or something. It was something weird, but it did happen. So, yeah, you're right. They're, a heck of a strip fumble by the Alabama guy. I can't remember his name, but he ripped that ball right out of Lenore Seller's hand. And if the only thing I was thinking was, are they going to say his forward progress was stopped? And that's such an iffy, but that's not what the play call was. And so therefore you got to overturn the play call and all that, So I think they made the right call. Hell of a move. Go down when you got a ball, So Alabama what a comeback. And they that's kind of stuff that could kill your season, but it keeps your season going. Heck of a game. You called it. They're on the road, SEC at night. It was a 3:30 game, but it was at night by the time that was going on. But unbelievable. And then lots of games yesterday. Indiana I think honestly, Indiana is the number one team in the nation. I'll just say it. I'm not putting any bad news in the Buckeyes or anything. I just don't think they're playing as good as Indiana. They went into Autzen. UCLA, they killed them, and they should have killed them because I don't think UCLA is the next darlings. They won 3 games in a row. It was nice because they got a new coach, an interim guy. But I'm thinking Indiana's looking the part this late in the season of the number one team in college football. What do you think?
Well, I think there shouldn't be an argument for that. I mean, they've certainly looked the part. They passed the eye test, but you still got the Buckeyes sitting there with the number one defense, and hey, they looked up the part too. They may not have the blowouts that Indiana does, but they're still right there. And I said in our show just the other night that I'll say it again. It's hard for me to believe that Indiana is going to get past Ohio State. I mean, there's just too much talent there. Hats off to Indiana. They got a great coach. They really got things rolling, and of course, that means a lot. But there's certainly an argument for him to be number one right now. Does it matter who's one, who's two?
Well, no.
Most likely, they're going to play in the Big Ten championship.
Yeah,
that'll be a great game.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt that hopefully will happen. It should happen on paper. It looks like it should happen. I don't know if they're a better team than Ohio State, but I think they've got a better overall resume than Ohio State.
They do,
and it's mostly the teams they've played and how they've played them.
Yep.
They got a common opponent, and it was a home game for Indiana, an away game for Ohio State, but Indiana handled them a lot more so than Ohio State did. Other than that, it's just a lot of conjecture, and it really doesn't matter where they go. But I think they're already getting first place votes, and they should. And they look really good. And Signetti can get that team to the end to be undefeated. And they play for the Big Ten championship. I think it's by that point for sure. The naysayers got to say this isn't your dad's Indiana anymore. And I think we're looking at somebody that's going to be here for at least a short-term while, as long as Signetti's there, which is 9 or 10 more years or whatever. So, hats off to the Hoosiers, especially when you consider, we're just looking back at the college football. Here comes Vandy, here comes Missouri, who got beat by Vandy, but some of the other teams, BYU, Cincinnati, some teams that nobody's really talking about that all got one loss or less, and down goes Penn State, and LSU goes down again. Florida's fired their coach, it's a lot of the big, I guess we can lead this into, we'll hold off on that. So, other game, Georgia Tech, can't forget about them, 8-0.
Yeah.
Incredible. 8-0 or 9-0. I think it's 8-0. I think they had a bye week, but Ole Miss finally pulls off a big one on the road, beating Oklahoma. That was a heck of a game for them. I was happy for Lane Kiffin.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a huge game for them because that's another team that that I've called. That's the SEC's Penn State can't get over the top. And beating Oklahoma, I don't know if that's the same as winning the SEC championship, knocking off Georgia, knocking off an Alabama, but it's still certainly a step forward for Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss moving forward. So yeah, definitely a big win for them.
Yeah, it kept them as a one-loss team,
right?
Which is nice, and it's a decent win within the conference. Miami holds serve against Stanford, Vanderbilt. We talked about a little bit, but that's almost a team where, almost like last year's Indiana, even though Vanderbilt did this last year, it's like, how far can this team go? And it really does seem, and a lot of people are saying that the Diego Pavia is where that team's going to go, wherever he can take them. Even though I think they still have some great athletes on defense and they play good football, complementary. The BYU game, I called Iowa State, and boy, I tell you what, they were up, I think 24-6. And then next thing you know, it's 41-27. It's game over. BYU just absolutely outscored them like 35-3 or something in the second half. It was an absolute stomping at Iowa State. Nice win for BYU.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That was a huge win for them. That was that was big. Speaking of comebacks, it's probably, I don't know if there's any bigger than what Texas did.
Yes.
That was unbelievable. You were like, I can't believe Texas won this game.
And did you see how well, I didn't see it happen, but I guess they returned a punt for a kickoff for
Yeah.
a touchdown, which I think that tied the game up, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it was a punt.
Yeah, and then put it into overtime, and then they got the win in overtime. So, hey, however you got to get them, that's how you got to get them. Sometimes you just got to be on the right side of weird. This is the year of weird. So it was a nice win for Texas.
Oh yeah, that was
and
huge,
then-
huge comeback.
Yeah, Tennessee blows out Kentucky. Kentucky really isn't having a great year. I thought Louisville beating Boston College was nice. That keeps props them up. I thought there was, as much grief as they give Belichick, he took Virginia to overtime and lost by 1 point because he went for two. He went for the win instead of going for a tie. That's a nice game for them. They lost, but my gosh, at least they were in that game,
Right.
So there's no telling he can't have a good year next year. Everybody's wanting them to cut him loose.
Yeah.
So
Oh yeah, this is the year to cut them loose.
yeah.
We're looking at a lot of stuff that we can get into and talk about. But yeah, it was another weekend of weird. Lots going on. And I'll tell you, I mentioned this to you last night, and this is something that just really it's disturbing. To be honest with you, is the officiating that we're seeing in these college games. It's mind-boggling. And I'll open a can of worms here. Because what is this? What is going on? Is this because betting has become such a big thing and money, all the money involved? Because we see game after game being affected by these calls. They go to the replay booth, and we've seen this several times now. Goes to the replay booth, and they bring in their analyst, their expert analyst. Oh yeah, this is going to be overturned. It's clear. The push in the back in the Alabama game, the Wisconsin game on the first down, the guy clearly passed like half a yard past the first down marker, and they go to the replay booth. They look at it, and they're like, "This is taking off a lot of time for something so obvious." And then they come back out on the field. The play is being upheld, and everybody in the country is like, "What is going on?" And then after the fact, they come out and say, "Yeah, that shouldn't happen that way."
Yeah, it's
How can that many people miss that?
I don't disagree, and obviously we've got one referee suspended, for life from ever refereeing in the SEC again. And they said this over like Friday it came out, and he was the one that called the Clemson Ohio State game a number of years ago in the Final Four, where Clemson got a targeting call on Sean Wade, and then the big egregious one was a little pass out to a Clemson guy in the flat, caught the ball, turns, Okuda comes up, strips the ball out, another guy picks it, takes it in, touchdown. And they go back and they said, oh, he didn't catch it. And even the guy in the booth was going, the referee, I really don't think that's a catch. And of course, Herbstreit and Fowler like, really? And Herbstreit little says, well, I'm glad I'm not the one in the booth because I don't know how that's not a catch, But no, I don't disagree, and it is more so now. It seems hats off to the ACC, because the ACC, at least you see what the refs are seeing as they're making the calls. They put the videos on screen, which I wish they all did that, because it shows transparency, and they don't seem to be having the issues that the other ones have that I've noticed. But it is nuts, and with what's come out with all the basketball and everything else going on, who knows what kind of things gambling is going on.
Yeah, going back, you say, talk about the official that's been suspended for the year, for life, whatever it may be.
Right.
To me, there's got to be a little something more to that, because it's not just him. He didn't make every call in that game.
Oh no, yeah.
It was that crew, and those key plays went to the booth.
Right. Right.
To me, it's more on the replay booth whenever they see something as obvious as they do, and it doesn't get overturned. That's really what blows my mind the most about this whole thing.
We had a question about that at work, and maybe you know this. I don't know. I need to look it up if we don't know it. We're looking at the replay, and the guy goes over and he's looking at the thing on the field. That's the referee. Is he making the determining call, or is he the one looking at it going, I have the last call? The booth looking at it, they're looking at it, but does he make the final call, or does the booth make the final call? Because I'm thinking if he's not making the final call, why is he even looking at anything? He should just be waiting for the booth to tell him. So, but that's why I wonder if that guy got the hammer dropped on it, because it all falls on the referee. He's the one that determines finally what the call is going to be. But I don't know the answer to that, though.
Well, I don't know exact. My understanding is that the booth makes the call, sends it to the referee. Now, does he have veto power? Uh, he,
Right.
I would assume that he probably does. 'Cause like you said, well, why are you underneath the booth? They'll just call it down and tell you, hey, this is
Yeah.
what happened. So,
Yeah.
um,
So
I mean, my
I'll look
that's
into that for sure,
yeah,
just to make
that's
some.
my assumption is, the replay booth calls it, says, this is what we see, this is what happened, this is what we would call. And then I think it is up to the referee to make that,
And it
determine. I'm sure they're going to say, okay,
And it might be different in every conference because we do know
could
that
be, could
conferences are
be.
different for different things. And the ACC obviously is the only one that has got the screens popped up when they're looking so you can see what they're looking at, transparency, which I think it's great. And I think it makes it feel like it goes faster. When you're walking that, you don't realize how much time is going. When you're standing there waiting for them, the guys, you're like, man, it's taking forever, So
Oh yeah, well,
I'd look for them all to be doing that next year, hopefully.
yeah, and it's gotten, what makes it even look worse is, all these conference and all that, the stations, ESPN, Fox, whatever it is, they have an analyst
Right.
and they bring him in. Hey, hey, Joey,
Gene Setator or whatever, yeah.
yeah, the our expert analyst. What do you think here? And he tells what he thinks and what he sees, and then it comes back, and it's not it's not that.
Right.
And it's like, well, the commentator's seen it, the expert's seen it, everybody on TV's seen it, but they get it wrong.
Right.
Not just once, it's every week, and I swear it seems like every week that it's happening more and more. And when it
Yeah.
affects games, that is really a problem.
Yeah, and they're always looking at scoring plays. They're always looking at first down plays, especially late in the game, and that's why it really comes into play for how games are happening and the outcomes because they're not doing it in the middle of the second quarter, or the first quarter as much as they're doing it in the key moments, even though the same plays are happening in all areas. And then with the whole thing of it's almost like they'd rather let a play run out just in case versus just making a call on the field because then they say, well, the whistle blew. So from that point on, the play's dead. So I think that negatively affects games because they're just letting them play. There's times that you and I have seen where the forward momentum has been stopped for a while before they're blowing whistles. And that's how, that poor Bo Papula's leg got completely mangled in that Vanderbilt game
Yeah.
because they should have called that. They should have blew that whistle a little earlier. He should have got down too. I'm gonna tell my quarterback go down low when you're going down, because they're
Right.
just gonna stand you up and bend you like a pretzel, So
Well, the offensive line isn't helping that matter.
Yeah.
They're trying to pick that guy up and push him forward, and a lot of times they do.
hey, the whole push thing and all this. I read this last year. I mean, you might have talked about it, but it literally said, "Don't forget that Mike Leach, rest his soul, was once talked out of bringing a little person into the game in pads and throwing him over the goal line with the ball in his hand." he literally considered that. And how far are we from that? They're not little people anymore or whatever, but my gosh, we're practically picking them up. Pretty soon it's going to be a guy in the air and everybody's going to be trying to throw him over the goal line, I mean,
I hadn't heard that.
yeah.
I heard that.
He really considered it a number of decades ago, whatever, but we really need to get back to football. Yeah. Get back to football. Play football, tackle, make calls. Bad calls are part of the game. And the thing is, they try to get all these calls right. The bad calls are still part of the game. Now it's worse. Just let bad calls be bad calls. What they're doing in baseball with all the strikes and stuff, that's going to be a nightmare when they do that ridiculous stuff. But
this whole replay booth thing has just been an epic fail for this football season. It has it, and the season of weird, and they sure haven't helped matters. And each week, at first I'm like, man, that's crazy. And then I'm like, wait a minute, this is every day, this is every week. And then I'm watching, and I'm like, wait a minute, this is so obvious to everybody in the country, the expert guy, the commentators, the thousands upon thousands of people that are watching on TV.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you still can't get it right.
No doubt.
Amazing.
One thing I want to say is congratulations to Wisconsin. They finally got 7 points on the board. Last two games were scoreless, and last I saw they were still scoreless in that game yesterday, so they must have got that late. At least they got put 7 points on the board. That was against Oregon at Oregon, so that was going to be a tough one.
The first half was a great game.
Oh yeah, it was.
Game in the
Yep.
first half.
So moving on, if anybody's paying attention today at all, it's coming down that the sources are all leaking the information that LSU is going to be let go of Brian Kelly. Hasn't been official
Right.
yet, but they're saying it's all but said and done. They're going to let them tell the players and all that. So let's not forget when Brian Kelly leaves. When he left Notre Dame was when the same time that Lincoln Riley left Oklahoma, and in comes Venables, and in comes Kelly LSU, in comes Freeman,
Yeah,
and so
Marcus.
now Lincoln hasn't done a whole lot at USC. Kelly did what he did. You when judge it for what you will at LSU. And Freeman's been to the college championship, once and, didn't win it, but he got him there. Of
Yep.
course, Kelly did that too, I think once and didn't win it. And so now Penn State is not going to be the premier location
Job.
looking for a coach, the best job. Great place for sure, but certainly LSU is going to be a higher
Florida.
tier.
Florida.
Florida, yeah, and even Florida. I think LSU would be bigger than Florida to me.
I would think so. Especially with the way things gone in Florida with coaches and everything else. Like I told you the other day, that's a snake pit.
Yeah, absolutely. And LSU, it certainly isn't for a lack of talent. I mean, they've
Oh,
got
they
roster
have it.
crazy. So does Franklin, who wants to coach again next year, for all what everybody's saying, does he end up at LSU? Would they go for him? Is he a big enough splash or not? What do you think?
Well, I don't know. I think he could be. If I'm LSU, I'm certainly going to look into that. Um, but again, he has that hanging over his head. You got to get that big win.
Right.
I mean, had he knocked off one of those teams, I think he would be a lock for it.
Sure.
But I mean, he still has to be under consideration, in my opinion. I mean, he's very successful, and I honestly think he's going to have better personnel. Um, I'm not talking about coaching wise, but to pick from, I don't think you're going to see more at LSU, the 5 stars and all that stuff, more so than you did at Penn State.
Yeah.
Maybe not by a whole lot, but a little bit, enough to make a difference. So, yeah, I mean, I think they definitely have to look at him. I don't know if I'd pull the trigger on that one or not.
It'd be interesting. Great venue, so is Beaver Valley. Great night games, if you will. There, with the presence, the fandom, the whole, all that. They're in the south. It's warmer, hotter. A lot of people like to play down there. Don't want to play up north. It's not that it's crazy cold, but it gets cold. So all that's consideration. Money is where it's going to be really tell the tale. So how much is NIL going in, from any school, let alone LSU, Penn State, and yada yada. So it will be interesting. And then it will be interesting if where Kelly goes. And I mean, he's a great coach, but he has yet to, finish the deal, if you will. And it's one thing. Look at how many guys that are still coaching that actually have done that. I think it's 2 right now. Because
Yeah.
and if Jimbo comes back in, that'd be 3, and he did it in the BCS era. So, it's not like there's, maybe your coach ain't so bad, so to speak, or maybe Brian Kelly ain't bad, just needs a different venue, blah, 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 who knows, whatever. I'm sure Florida will be looking at Brian Kelly. Why wouldn't they? They got to look at everybody, if they're
Right.
really serious about it.
Yeah.
So
I don't
it'll
know.
be interesting.
I think the thing with Brian Kelly is, he was put in 2 absolute fantastic situations at Notre Dame and then at LSU.
Yep.
Fantastic situation. And then the last couple of years, with the projections and all that stuff of LSU, we've heard it the last year. And then this year, the Heisman guy, and so they should be one of the top 3 teams and all that. And then he hasn't delivered that in probably the biggest opportunity market that's out there.
Yeah.
So how good a coach is he? I mean, obviously he's good, but given the fact that he's been in 2 of the best opportunities there is and hasn't been able to succeed or get over the top, whatever you want to call it, I don't know. I mean, I'm just thinking we're talking millions of dollars now. That there was a thing that they said, and I don't know if how true it was, but they said that Florida was offering Lane Kiffin like a 6-year deal for $81 million. extraordinary amount of money. So
Oh yeah.
the amount of money on these buyouts and what they're going to have to pay these guys to get them in there is just extraordinary. And I don't believe this is over with yet. I'm I'm hearing now that they're talking Clemson getting rid of Dabo Sweeney. Now that in that case, I think Dabo would have to agree to that
Oh,
because he is
his
actually like
contract.
CEO. I mean, he's got a lot of pull in that program. I don't know exactly how that would work, but
Right.
there is talk of, hey, maybe we need to go a different direction, and they might be right with the way
Yeah.
things have gone the last couple of years.
I mean, sometimes things just get stale, and you don't have the locker room anymore. I'm not saying that's him. It's just who knows if it is any of them. But
Change.
you look at the ACC and Clemson, top school, 2 championships, and I think they lost one, and they've been to the thing 6 times. When it was the 4, and then last year. And then you got Georgia Tech, who doesn't have the same roster, doesn't have the same probably payroll, certainly doesn't have, that's a harder school to get into. And look at them. They're 8-0, and they beat Clemson, and they've beat everybody else they've played. And it's like, okay, is this team still more like they're paying the coach a decent salary and they're paying the guys decent money, but it's all about winning and grit the way it should be, so to speak. And that's why those teams are having great success, like Vanderbilt and Georgia Tech and others that are just out there pounding it versus go where the money is, go where the money is, go where the money is, talking about players more than coaches because they're moving around a lot in the last 2 or 3 years, and they're deciding where they're going. And it's not really turning into wins other than in the wallet, and that's very possible. And look out if that happens because now it's just who knows what this year's 12-year field is going to look like. 12-team field is going to look like.
Right. And, honestly, I would go after one of those guys. The guy at Indiana, the guy at Georgia Tech, maybe the guy at BYU, maybe the guy at, one of these really successful programs that are winning with less.
Yeah.
So you got to believe what would they do with more?
Right.
I mean, that's my thinking anyway. So, I mean, that would certainly be some of the guys that I would look at, probably even before Brian Kelly, Franklin. I don't know if the guy from Florida was that Billy Napier.
Napier, right?
Yeah, I mean, they have the names and experience and all that stuff. But I'm telling you, these guys, just like the guy that came into Indiana, hey, I win.
Right.
And that's what you got to kind of look at here.
The one thing you and I both said, and I think most sane people who watch can probably say about the guy in Indiana Signetti is that guy's a heck of a ball coach. It's obvious looking at that team, that team's well coached. Who knows what their NIL is? Don't know. But that team's well coached, and that matters. And sometimes, and I'm not saying I'm no doubt in my mind, Kelly, Fickle, all these guys are great coaches, but because that's how they got where they are. But when they get to those bigger programs, now all of a sudden it's a totally different ballgame, and they don't have the control, they don't have the say so, they're not doing this, and so therefore they're losing games because they're just not prepared. The scheme's not right. They're not doing things the way they used to do them in the X's and O's. You can't say LSU don't have the players, man. They got great players on that team, man. It's just that they're not playing great football together, and that's usually scheme and coaching.
Right. Well, yeah, absolutely. You just kind of wonder how it's all going to end up when all this is said and done, because I don't believe by the time this is all said and over, I think there's probably going to be 2 or 3 more guys that are going to go down from top programs. But yeah, I mean, like you said, you go from Luke Fickle. I really like Luke Fickle, and
Sure.
A buddy of mine is he's a big Wisconsin fan. And he's like, well, is it fair to Luke Fickle? Because one thing about Luke Fickle, that you mentioned his name, man, he has had such bad luck at bad luck at Wisconsin. Starting quarterback like 3 years in a row, the key injuries and all that stuff have just not gone his way. So that's another program. They look, man, things are not working out for whatever reason. We can't really blame you, but we got to change things up here. So,
right.
I mean, I think you're going to, anyways, what I'm getting at is when it's said and done, I think there's going to be 2 or 3 more big jobs come open in the market.
I agree. I agree. Who knows which ones exactly, but there's certainly some ones out there that have the red tag, waiting there. So there's no doubt. It's going to be interesting. The carousel of coaches this year is going to be pretty phenomenal. And at some point, somebody's going to go from one job to another. Then it's going to be a domino effect. Who replaces him? Then who replaces him? Is it from, how many other teams will lose people trying to fill the holes when somebody moves on from another team, like Kelly left the Notre Dame and Lincoln left Oklahoma. That was a crazy offseason that year. So no doubt.
And I think it's going to be the guy, not only the guy that can motivate players, work the NIL and all that stuff. It's the key thing that's going to be a lead to a successful coach now, and maybe it just takes money. I don't know. I mean, Ohio State's done well with it, but they've spent a lot of money doing it. Maybe that's what it takes. But you got to have a coach that's going to keep guys there, because it's going to be right now. It's so easy for a guy to say, things didn't work out the way I wanted to. I'm not in the position I thought I was. I'm just going to go here. And, there's no penalty for doing that now. You just go somewhere else. So, I think the guy that is not only the coach, but the coach's influence on a guy to keep him there is becoming a bigger and bigger factor in the success of these programs.
And definitely, because this is kind of new in the last few years, the farther we get into this, I think potentially the less and less the influence is there, because some of these guys still want to play football. That's the number one drive. But hey, that money would be nice too. It's going to be guys who are like, man, I don't care about your team. I wonder how much you're going to pay me to come here and do what I do. And that's what you don't want, in my opinion. I think one of the best candidates, he's actually got a team now, but as far as a great guy who's a great coach, great motivator, and also he has not done it yet, so he's got that drive, is Kalen DeBoer. He's at a great school. They're playing great football. It's a hell of a ride. It's ups and downs. It's what do you call that? Adversity. But boy, they're putting it together this year so far. That 2-point conversion play was genius. That was beautiful.
That was that was a good. That was a nice call down there, because I was wondering what they're going to do here. I'm like, man, they got a short field to throw to here. When they try to run it, they have absolutely no running game. I'm like, you got to throw it. But the way they came up with changing things up, a little misdirection, and giving it to the quarterback, you're right. That was an absolute genius. That was a genius call.
It's like, I don't know if they just confused him enough to know, but nobody shot through and had a clean look at anybody in the backfield for them to pull that off. And he threw a dart and nailed that dude, because I like Ty Simpson. I think he's a great quarterback, man. Earlier in that game, he had a guy wide open going across the middle. I think it was Jermaine Brown, and he just missed him. And that was so unfortunate. He just overthrew a hand, but it happens, man. But boy, that was a dart on the money on that 2-point conversion. That was beautiful. I was like, dude, that was a great play.
I mean, things have gone much better for Alabama. Kalen DeBoer, he was talking about it the other day, and I see it all. I followed him for, we're at over 50 years now.
Right.
Is, they have fight in them. They're not giving up. They have fight in them, and they're able to come back. They're not so much like they were last year. If you stop Jalen Monroe running last year, he wasn't a great thrower. Other than a long ball, which keep two back. It was tough for them to come back in these games.
Oh yeah.
And now we're seeing that they do. The big problem for Alabama, and it's going to get bigger and bigger as we move forward, and especially into the playoff, is they have no running game. I mean, they cannot find a running game, which is strange for Alabama, because they've always had a good running game.
True. True.
Now they have a quarterback that's making really good decisions. Didn't have his best day yesterday. That was another one of those calls you were talking about, that block in the back. They came out today and said that should have been a penalty. Well, that led to South Carolina taking the lead, 22 to.
Yeah. He was pushed into the ball.
14, yeah. So that was another one that we were going back to the officiating thing, where they came out today and said, oh, yeah, it should have been a penalty. And 2 reasons why it should have been a penalty. 1, a block in the back. 2, the other one, which I didn't fully understand, is the receiver. When he's given up on the ball, he's not eligible to be I can't remember exactly how it said. I read
Block.
it. I didn't. Yeah.
I think if you give up the ball, you can't throw a block or something like that.
Yeah.
Something like that. But yeah.
Something like that. Yeah. So I mean, the whole thing was wrong.
And if you and I can see that from our couches, those dudes in the booth should be able to see that too. That's what's really, yeah.
Yeah.
You wonder, that's late in the game. How many cocktails have they had? They're not looking through one glass. Hey, it was great.
I mean,
Who knows?
what's gonna happen when what my fear of what's going to happen is we're going to get to the playoffs and a really big game, a really big matchup. Let's just call it Georgia and Ohio State. And there's going to be one of those calls. This is my fear. There's going to be one of those calls like what you were saying about the game before, where oh man, this is so obvious, and they're going to bring in the expert guy, and he's going to tell you it's obvious, and then they're not going to follow through with it.
Right.
But, your question about the final say on that, that'll be I'd say interesting to what that is. I think I know the answer to it, but I'm not positive of that.
I'm going to look it up. If anything, I think it's very possible it's different in each conference, but I'm going to look that up, and we'll hopefully have that answer on Saturday morning for our next show. So,
yep, sounds good.
What a great Saturday it was yesterday, and
wow.
Alabama and LSU both got a bye this week, and they play each other in 2 weeks. Isn't that right?
Yeah, they play each other the following week at Alabama.
Yeah,
but,
so
LSU is going to have a new coach. I'm sure.
Or interim, yeah.
Guy. What that'll do? Who knows? But I mean, that's another one of those games. I tell you, the SEC is just. I mean, it's tough every week. I know there's big arguments about the Big Ten versus the SEC, the ACC, whatever it is. But basically, it's the Big Ten and the SEC is what you hear the most about. The best conference, the best conference. But in the Big Ten, you always have a game or two that's really big. The SEC always seems to have 3 or 4.
Oh yeah,
just really, great matchups. And it doesn't. This is the other thing that kind of baffles me that people don't understand that when I'm talking social media and all that stuff to get on there to claim that we know all about football, doesn't understand about the matchups of 2 different teams.
Right.
Ohio State Indiana matchup. I mean, could be a great game. Maybe Indiana pulls it off or whatever. Is way different than Ohio State and Michigan.
Oh yeah.
Or or when Indiana play. I'm trying to get a common opponent here. If Indiana played Michigan and Ohio State played Michigan, they're 2 totally different outcomes. Doesn't affect what happens when they meet.
Right. Oh yeah.
In Big Ten, that's what I'm getting at.
Well, I mean, Illinois is a good example. Illinois is a certain type of team, and so what Indiana did to them, what we did to them, doesn't say what's happening in the game when Indiana and Ohio State played, because that's a total matchup. I mean, Illinois is a a very heavy run influencing team with a quarterback who can throw it, but he's not like a world beater quarterback. Where Indiana and Ohio State got guys that look like they're Heisman potential and better defenses, and they're more explosive. Illinois is not very explosive, so no big deal. I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, how do they match up? It doesn't. We're talking about 2 totally different teams and matchups against offensive linemen, against defensive linemen.
Oh yeah,
all that. But and then you have the history of the history of these 2 teams. I knew that South Carolina was going to give Alabama all they could because I told you before last year they won by Alabama pulled it out with 2 points.
Right.
When South Carolina had another fumble, but this time they fumbled down on their end. They were down 2. They kick a field goal and they win that game, and they were within like 30 yards.
Yeah.
And they fumbled, and Alabama won that game. So it didn't surprise me. There's been a few times that Alabama has blown them out, but there's been several times that South Carolina has just battled them. You see that with LSU. You see that with the Georgia games. You see that with Auburn. Is probably the best example. I mean, Auburn's not playing all that great right now. The record. I mean, they have three or 4 losses, but I guarantee when they play Alabama,
oh yeah,
that'll be a battle.
Yeah, that's why it wasn't a big deal last year when Michigan played Ohio State so great. They're like, they shouldn't have got in. That's a rivalry game. You just throw the records out. Yep. They're going to beat the crap out of each other for 3 hours, and we'll see what happens.
And that's
yeah. But speaking of other names, real quick, I know Shane Bieber's name is floating around. What's going on in South Carolina,
right.
And then even it was another SEC team. Arkansas already fired their guy. Florida fired. I thought there was one other SEC team that was potentially. Oh, then Coach Kelly's gone, but I can't think of it.
Well,
So
they're talking about Sarkisian going to the NFL.
oh, I sent you that. I sent you that meme that that's the first time I've seen or heard any of that, and that would shock me. I'm not saying it's not possible. I don't know. I would be shocked. It seems like who knows what's going on behind closed doors. That's all I can say because that doesn't look on paper
money.
like it's going to happen. But yeah, exactly.
Money's going on behind closed doors.
Oh yeah.
But what I was getting at with that whole SEC thing in Big Ten, the Big Ten, we said last year, it was a good thing that Michigan came back because it was a one-horse show.
Yep.
But now we're starting to see if Penn State would have been what we thought they were, you would have 4 teams right now in the Big Ten that could arguably be, 4 of the best teams in the country, in Oregon, Indiana, Penn State, and Ohio State. I mean, you still have the argument of Oregon, Indiana, and Ohio State, but
sure,
the problem is this year the way the matchups are, they don't play each other.
Right.
So the only way that can happen is in the Big Ten championship. So I almost feel like, daggone, we're getting cheated out, seeing the best teams in the Big Ten mixing it up head to head on the field.
Yeah. It's just weird how because Ohio State played Indiana last year, and then Oregon played them this year, and then we played Penn State, but they're not any good, and Indiana plays Penn State, but they're not any good. So those are 2 really cool games that were going to be great, should have been great, and Penn State's could be great if Penn State plays great and tries to pull an upset. But other than that, it's not what it could have been. Matchups, high-ranking teams, with big CFP issues. So
you would think they were coming in that team with Penn State 1 loss at the very most,
right?
Possibly the Oregon one. 1 loss at the very most. Nobody's seen all this other stuff coming on to literally just take completely away from that matchup. I mean, it's still Penn State versus Ohio State. Let's not let's not say it doesn't mean anything because it's certainly still going to be that.
Oh yeah, I mean the
marquee, the market and the marquee game has kind of been taken away from.
Yeah, Penn State is going to want to win that game. It's going to be harder for them. So if Ohio State can't just say, let's roll a helmet out there, we're going to win. But you think about Penn State. They had it all for themselves this year. Everybody back, their quarterback back, and they played on their schedule. They played Oregon, Indiana, and Ohio State, and they don't play Michigan. So the other 3 big, because there's 4 schools coming into this season in the Big Ten, Penn State, Indiana, Ohio State, and Oregon, and they would have played them all. And if they would have won all them, they would have been the number 1 team in the nation. They would have been a team that everybody thought was going to. I mean, it would have been great. And it's just unfortunate. I mean, it didn't work out for them. That kind of stinks for them. But it was going to be beautiful because they're the only ones that had all those teams on their schedule.
Yeah, right now, well, we're looking as a Big Ten fan. I'm not a Big Ten fan, but people that are a Big Ten fan and all that stuff, and what they have to look forward to for that big game is basically the Big Ten championship.
Yep.
In the playoffs, of course, because you never know what's going to happen there.
Yeah, I mean, barring anything weird, Indiana, Ohio State, and Oregon are all going to go into the playoff. There's just no doubt. Those 3 teams, regardless, unless any of the Indiana, Ohio State, and Oregon lose 4 games in a row, which ain't going to happen. So they'll be in there, and they'll be meeting probably 4, if not 5 teams from the SEC, which gives you 8. 7 or 8, and then the rest are going to come. Notre Dame is probably going in, and then sprinkling the rest of them. And it'll be good, but man, Vanderbilt's going to be in there. Georgia Tech's probably going to be in there. I mean, it's going to be hard to keep those teams out. Unless they fall apart, their schedules are pretty locked in. As long as they handle business, they're in, win or lose in the conference championship for sure.
Yeah,
So
the Big Ten championship is pretty much, I mean, somewhat locked into me. They're on a collision course, and I don't see anything changing that. Could something change that? Absolutely. But they're on a collision course. I mean, you pretty much say Ohio State, Indiana in the Big Ten championship.
If Ohio State drops a game, then it's going to be who between them and Oregon. They're going to both have 1 loss in the conference. Oregon lost to Indiana. I don't know how they figure that out. I don't know what the protocol is, but for the most part, Ohio State and Indiana one has to lose 2 games for Oregon to sneak in. So it's probably going to be Ohio State and Indiana. They're going to
go into that game undefeated. There's no doubt in my mind. The SEC, I have no idea.
Oh, dude, I'm with you.
I have no idea.
I'm with you.
Vandy,
Georgia, even
Alabama,
Ole Miss, Alabama.
They're all right there, 1 loss.
And it's all kind of in front of them. And I don't know who controls their own destiny and all that, other
Well,
than
Alabama
maybe
doesn't.
Alabama,
They
because they've
don't.
already beat Vandy.
Well, they don't have a loss in the SEC. Everybody else
Right,
has it.
right, right, right,
Everybody else has a loss in the SEC.
right.
Alabama's loss was to Florida
Florida State,
State, an
right.
ACC team. So they don't have a loss in
Are
the
they the
SEC
only
yet.
undefeated team in the SEC conference?
I believe so.
Okay, I wasn't sure if there is
Yeah,
another
yeah,
one or not.
I believe
So
so. Tennessee's lost. Alabama beat Georgia. Alabama beat Tennessee. Alabama beat Vandy. I'm pretty
Georgia beat
sure.
Ole
Yep,
Miss and Alabama beat Vandy. Yeah, you're
yep,
right. So yeah, I
yep.
think
So
that's
they're
going
the
to be
only
correct.
undefeated team right now.
So Alabama, they control their own destiny for sure to get to the game, and then it's going to be crazy to see between those other teams we just mentioned, but all with one loss in the conference. I think the most are who's going to emerge from that. You
Right,
know,
right, absolutely. Yeah,
nutty.
going to be interesting. But I had to talk about that officiating thing. That is just, man, that's just a real concern, man. If I'm the NCAA, I mean they got to take a look at this, man. It is just looking horrible. Um, I mean,
Yep.
from my standpoint, and I can't be the only one feeling this way. I mean, everybody else watches the games too. You watch the games, you're
Oh yeah.
seeing it. So we're talking thousands upon thousands of people in the conferences are coming out with these statements, and it's like, he just made yourself even look stupider than what you already, than
Oh
the
yeah.
film was already out there. Maybe you should just keep your mouth shut. Don't come out and say, oh, you know what,
Right.
they should have overturned that. They shouldn't have called that. They shouldn't have. I don't know how good that is for the conference or for people to see that.
True. True. No doubt. All right, man. We got to call it. So my kids got to go to bed.
Yeah, man. I gotta go to bed.
Yeah, there you go. So, all right. Thanks for watching. Tuned in. Leave us some information if you want to leave us a chat. If you know what's going on with what we were talking about when it comes to the referees, different conferences, you can shoot that to us as well. Look for us on Saturday morning to do the pregame, and then next Sunday evening recap, and then the 2 days later, we're going to do a quick show right after they announce the CFP's first top 25. I don't know if we'll go 25 deep, but we'll at least go top 12 because that's what's going in.
All
So,
right, sounds good.
all right. So, everyone, enjoy your week. Thanks for watching, and we will see you
Have a
on
good week.
Saturday.